Welcome into another edition of the Checkerboard Chat. I am Ryan Schumpert. Joined as always here in segment 1 by Noah Taylor. We're going to talk a little bit of Tennessee football, a big win on the road last Saturday night at Kentucky. We'll also dip into a little bit of Tennessee basketball as the Vols improved to 2-0 Tuesday night with a win over Murray State, and they prepare for a big battle Saturday against Washington. And in here in segment 2, I'll be joined by Ryan Cruz, one of our Lady Vols beat writers, and we'll break down the start to the season for the Lady Vols, including a big win Monday night over Notre Dame. So opening it up here, Noah, Tennessee, big 17-13 win Saturday. What was your biggest takeaway from the game?
I think, for that first half, or really, let's say the first quarter, it looked like, you hate to be too overreactionary, but I was thinking, wow, you lose this game this way, they're gonna if Bowden runs all over you all night, it's gonna undo a lot of progress that you've had the last few weeks. I don't know if it would undo it like permanently, but it would definitely not be a good look. Here you are again, this close to having a chance at a bowl game like they did last year, and then having that game where you just fall apart like they did against Vandy and Missouri last year.
Yeah.
So for that first quarter, I was like, this just isn't good for them. And my biggest takeaway is the fact that despite the Paxton Brooks blocked punt, which was a disaster.
Yeah.
Bowden and Rose, those guys running all over them at will in that first half, ate up 10 minutes in that first quarter. The fact that all that was going against them, Maurer wasn't playing bad necessarily, but they were struggling to move the ball. Defense was looking like they'd taken a step back. Despite all of that, to come back and win the football game and then win it at the goal line the way they did, my biggest takeaway is the fact that they're winning games like that now. We saw them be dominant, from pretty much the whole game against South Carolina, dominant against Mississippi State, get 2 solid wins there. Didn't get caught sleeping against UAB, played well against Alabama. Now they had the type of game where they were actually having to play from behind and then actually finish. So that was the most impressive thing, I thought.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'd say Kentucky was the better team Saturday. Now, I think Kentucky probably outplayed Tennessee a little bit. But the first time in a long time, Tennessee won a game that it probably shouldn't have won.
Yeah.
And, Tennessee made a lot of bad mistakes too, like the Paxton Brooks play, Ty Chandler's fumble. Sounded like Jeremy Pruitt was proverbial pulling his hair out. Obviously, he doesn't have any hair at halftime. With some of the misreads that are just lack of execution the linebackers were showing against a read option. But like you said, it's just a major step for this program to be able to win games like that, let alone games in the SEC. And Kentucky's not a world beater, but Kentucky's going to make a bowl game more than likely. They have a great chance to. And, when you look, I don't know where they'll match up on Tennessee's list of best wins at the end of the season, but their record's going to be better than South Carolina's. It's going to be better than Mississippi State's. And to go do it on the road when you have things going against you, which is really impressive. Last year, you look at Tennessee, and the games that they won, they got down 7-0 in that Auburn game, but they played those Kentucky and Auburn games last year. They played well basically from the beginning of the game. They did not deal with adversity well. They didn't seem to deal with adversity well early this season. You watched them against Florida completely fold after that interception in the end zone that went off Jennings' hands. And, it's definitely just a step in the right direction for this program. And I don't know if this is a team taking on the identity of its coach or not, but it was a gritty win, one that I'm not sure Tennessee had in them to win Saturday the way that they did win Saturday. Moving on a little, or keeping it on the game, the quarterback situation. Maurer, first half, you kind of talked about it a little bit. How impressed were you with Garantano, and does he stay the sixth man going forward? He's pretty clearly been Tennessee's best quarterback the past few weeks. How do you think Tennessee will handle that?
I've been running this over in my mind because he said, there was something he said after the game that at halftime he wasn't expecting to go in at all. I think it's a little bit of a testimony, like what I said earlier. Maurer wasn't playing bad. Maurer wasn't making a lot of mistakes. It just, they weren't moving the ball. And maybe Pruitt thought, throw something in there, throw a guy with experience and see what can happen. Obviously, it worked out. It worked out against South Carolina. It worked out against UAB. It worked out, Mississippi State. He came into that game. Do you keep running that system, throwing Maurer out there, seeing what happens, and then throwing Garantano in to shake it up? So far, the 2-quarterback thing has worked for them outside of that Alabama game. But, I think maybe you do. I think he's done enough. He's a junior. He's been in the program a long time. He's looking like the quarterback that Jeremy Pruitt and Jim Chaney said he was at the beginning of the year. I think against Missouri next week, I think you throw him out there and see where he can go from there. And then again, you don't want to – if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know that saying? I mean, I don't know. It'd be tough. It'd be tough to decide because he's taken that role on so well. I don't know if it's making him play better, but it's definitely worked out.
I definitely think they have the ability to do so now. Like when they were playing, when Maurer was hurt, if Maurer was still hurt, I'm not sure I would go JT Shroud. He had some nice plays in that South Carolina game, but watching him against UAB and, I still question exactly what he brings to the offense and if he's not more of a, I don't want to use the word liability. I feel like that's a little harsh on him, but someone is not going to be able to run everything they want to do in the offense. They got to handicap a little bit of things. I mean, you watched them in that was South Carolina game. They were playing a lot of Jennings at quarterback so they could run Shroud in from the sideline, give him the play from the sideline, kind of going back high school style. But Maurer I don't think he's a great quarterback, and I think Garantano's played better as of late, but he's a capable quarterback, and if you throw him in there for 2 drives, I think he gives you a chance to go get points. And as he wasn't great the other night, he missed some throws. Pruitt talked about missing some reads, working the wrong side of the field. He still got him 3 points, and on a drive that could have been 7 points if Trey Smith didn't have a dumb personal foul penalty that
knocked him out.
What kind of been a problem for Tennessee this year, penalties like that. Knocked him out of realistic scoring situation, get a touchdown there. So I think it's definitely a possibility. I don't think it would be a bad decision to go with Maurer, but I could see them just starting Jawan first play at quarterback and then putting Garantano in, just a little bit of irony or something. But it's going to be interesting to follow because I don't really think there's a bad option of those two. I definitely don't think you wait to get Garantano until halftime if Maurer's in there struggling. And that was a tough situation. I've heard some people criticize Pruitt for not going to Garantano quicker. I think that was a tough situation Saturday. The way Kentucky was running clock. I mean, this is the full game right here, but they had the ball for 41 and a half minutes in the game. And first half, Tennessee had four drives. I mean, first drive, Maurer wasn't great. Second drive, so one where he played pretty well, moved it down there. And then, I don't see where you're going to take him out after that drive. He'd done well to drive before. They only got 4 drives, and one of them was 4 or 5 plays with 45 seconds left before the half. I think that made it difficult to handle for Pruitt Saturday, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people second-guessing him a lot more if Tennessee were to have lost that game there at the goal line.
Yeah.
But that'll certainly be something fascinating going forward. Bye week Tennessee, what is there this week and going into Missouri next week? Other than is it just getting healthy? Is that the key for this team? Just getting rested up? What are you looking for a team to do?
I think it's the biggest thing for sure. And I think, Pruitt said that too, that was their biggest focus. Well, he said academics, but the biggest focus was getting guys healthy because they are banged up. I mean, you look at these wins, they've been great, but they've come at a cost, particularly that South Carolina game.
Yeah.
I guess that's the game where Garantano played well and hurt his hand. He's been had that cast on ever since. So it's a good time for that to go into these next 2 games, which are very pivotal. They got to be feeling pretty good about Vandy. But I think Missouri's definitely going to be a big challenge, as big as a challenge as Kentucky, maybe even more so. Although Kentucky beat Missouri, so you just never tell. I think getting healthy is the biggest thing. I think figuring out, and I think I read this yesterday about Pruitt saying at his Wednesday presser that focusing on maybe doing different things as well. And, that's something you could do. We talk about the quarterback situation. Figure out a way to throw 2 of them, maybe 3, because that's worked. It's been a very good system for them lately. It's got them wins, and so I think you focus on that. Focus on doing maybe things a little bit different to change things up based on Missouri. I read today that Missouri's like dead last in the SEC in sacks or something. They don't go after the quarterback very much, so you're gonna have to work around that as well. Maybe work on your run game a little bit more, which is something that I know they need to do because passing's worked out for them lately. Maybe they do need to establish a run game.
Yeah, this is kind of bouncing back a little bit. I thought that was the biggest surprise of last Saturday's game, or maybe not surprise in Tennessee's game plan is Kentucky came in with the 13th ranked rush defense in SEC, and Tennessee didn't really even try to run the ball. I mean,
no.
Obviously, Wanya Morris is banged up. Darnell Wright's not in the lineup. Maybe Jim Chaney just didn't have a whole lot of confidence that they could get it done with some reserve guys in there on the offensive line. But, I don't have the exact stats on me right now, but obviously Jarrett Garantano was Tennessee's leading rusher. Brian Maurer was third and not far behind Ty Chandler, I don't think. And it was, I believe, single-digit carries from Tennessee's tailbacks Saturday. But moving into this week in the bye, I think, this is kind of mixing in with getting healthy. I'm kind of would be interested to see what getting the secondary healthy. Bryce Thompson got knocked out of that game. It doesn't look to be anything serious, but he didn't come back. And then Jalen McCulloch, safety, he got pretty quick boot Saturday. Can they get him ready? Can they get him ready to go, prepared to face a heavy passing attack? Because this is really the first, besides, the Florida game, and I guess Alabama before Tagovailoa got hurt.
Yeah.
The first time they're going to be playing a real pass-first team this season. And I don't want to overlook Missouri's running backs. They've had a lot of success against Tennessee the past few years. But I think that'll be a big thing to watch is if they can get McCulloch back with some confidence and then have Bryce Thompson ready to be going because Alontae Taylor continues to play better. Sean Schamberger's playing really well in that nickel slot. If you had told me he's playing this well 13 months ago, I don't know if I'd believed you after how much he was really in Pruitt's doghouse for much of the first 2 months of the last season. But it's going to be interesting to see. Very well-timed bye week. Now, if Tennessee wouldn't have got that goal line stand, we've been saying, man, they needed that bye week a week early.
Yeah, it'd be a long 2 weeks.
It would be a long 2 weeks, but good time for the bye week. A lot of guys, I think they've had good injury luck. Not a ton of guys have been really
compared to the last few years. Yeah,
mm-hmm, definitely. But still, some guys that are banged up, not able to be at 100%. I can't imagine a lot of those guys were even practicing this week. And then getting ready to go next week.
I think too, something to keep an eye on because Missouri does play Saturday at noon against Florida. I did see today that Kelly Bryant is expected to play in that game, but that's something to keep an eye on too as well. Because depending on how that game goes for him, maybe he gets hurt, maybe he tweaks something. Maybe he plays like a Heisman Trophy candidate, which a lot of Missouri quarterbacks have been able to do against the likes of Tennessee and Florida the last few years. So who knows? But that's something to keep an eye on for sure. Because I know he's been dealing with injuries all year, and that'd be a big blow for them if he couldn't play against Tennessee.
Yeah, definitely. It's just I think we've talked about this for a while. It's we'll talk more about Missouri specifics next week, but what's the morale, what's the status of this Missouri team gonna be like next week? If they're only 5-point underdogs, home game against Florida, definitely winnable, but one I wouldn't expect them to win. If they drop their fourth straight, they're fighting just to get 6-6, 7-5, might not even be able to make a bowl game.
Exactly. And I heard something earlier this week that could be a factor for them. That they might know at this point they haven't heard anything, so then they might be, well, what's the point of playing? What are we playing for if we can't get into a bowl game? That could affect them. I'm not saying it does or will. I have no clue if it is. They might just not be very good this year.
And I'm sure this isn't Barry Odom's mindset, but if I'm a Missouri fan at this point, I'm almost we'll take the bowl loss. Well, we'll take the bowl can't play in a bowl game postseason.
Take a mulligan
this season because.
Right.
They're going to make a bowl game as long as they can at least take care of Arkansas. Which,
yeah.
As bad as Missouri's been the past month, I don't think they'll have any problems doing that at home. But, it's certainly not a season where they have achieved what they wanted to achieve, and they had everything right out in front of them just a month ago.
A huge pickup in the offseason at transfer quarterback, maybe the biggest, and it's just, hasn't really panned out. I hadn't watched a ton of Missouri football this year, obviously because they play a lot of the time when Tennessee's playing, or that 7:30 time slot. They love that one, and they'll be in that with Tennessee. So, I don't know how much of it's just Kelly Bryant or just how much of it is, I have a hard time thinking their defense is too big of a problem because a lot of these games they're getting shut out.
Yeah.
But against Georgia, it wasn't like it was a huge blowout. It was 29-0.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky 29-0. Very low scoring kind of just rock fights, as we talked about last week, games like that they just weren't able to get on the board in.
Yeah, and you mentioned it with the shutouts, and Missouri's quarterback situation after Kelly Bryant is very bleak. Yeah. They have not. It's not a good situation after him. Yeah. So, not to look too far in lines. I don't even know what the spread would be, I'd guess. Well, I'll give you a prediction. We'll see. We'll take expose me. I'd guess Missouri would open up as maybe a 1-2 point favorite pick'ems, but if Kelly Bryant's not playing, I think that those points would swing 3 or 4 points quickly because they have not gotten good quarterback play when he has not been in there.
And I mean, the following week, I mean, if Kelly Bryant's out, the following week you face another team that's got a very, very bad backup quarterback situation as well in Vanderbilt. So could be one of those rare instances in the last decade plus where things really go Tennessee's way.
Yeah.
You know, they line up in their favor in the last 2 weeks.
So pivoting over to basketball now, Tuesday night Tennessee got to 2-0. They had to sweat it out a little bit, down 9 at halftime. We just watched, I guess the team had watched Kentucky lose to Evansville. It was looking like the Vols might be next, but they rallied on the big second half to win 82-63. Jordan Bowden, leading scorer, 26 points. 19 of those came in the second half, where he matched the Racers' second half total as well, 19-19. Noah, what did you take away from Tuesday's game?
That Jordan Bowden is just unreal. That just the way he played in that second half, especially like halfway through there, it was unreal. The way he was going down there, hitting shots, pulling away the way they did, because it was a very, very close contest. It was one that Tennessee was trailed by 9, like you said, at half. It felt like it could have been more.
Yep.
And that Tevin Brown, I think his name was, that guy was just really hitting it. And again, it was kind of like early in the year, I say early in the year, we're 2 games in, but that exhibition game, I know it was an exhibition game. Eastern New Mexico had a guy that had 10, 12 points in the first half, then was shut down in the second half. And Tennessee did that a little bit as well, which helped against Murray State, helped tremendously. But, and it was a night where Lamonte Turner didn't score until a free throw in the second half. Fulkerson also struggled to score in the first half, but man, they contributed in other ways, defensively, and then Lamonte having 14 assists, and then the 0 turnovers was huge because I know that Rick Barnes had talked a lot about, hey, we need these guys to not turn the ball over as much, and they cleaned that up, and we expected Tennessee to get a lot. If they're going to win games, they're going to have to get a lot out of Bowden and Turner, and they did that. And against a team that I think will make the tournament. It's a very good basketball team. So. Solid win, and to come from behind the way they did when everything was working against them, like the football team, it was a big win, a good resume building win, I think, this early on.
Yeah, and I don't know if they necessarily would need this to get past Murray State every time, but early in the season, while Josiah James is still kind of getting into a groove and some guys are still getting into a groove, I think that's what Tennessee's going to be a lot. Can Lamonte Turner or Jordan Bowden give you big nights? Yeah. Because those are the guys that are really going to have to lean on, and both of them have the capability to score 20-plus at any given night. My biggest takeaway for me was Yves Pons. What a game from him. Barnes had said after the first game in his press conference that he'd been their best three-point shooter in practice, and
showed it.
He kind of listened to that, and I don't know if I didn't think they were lying or anything, but Pons is a guy that hadn't been able to ever really carry that over into the game, but boy did he do it Tuesday night. 3 of 4 from 3 in the first half really kept him in the game, and then 19 total points. He hit 2 with his foot on the line in the second half. Would have been 3. If he would have gone 5 for 6, my goodness, what world would we have been living in? But talking about, that's kind of been a conversation all offseason. Who can score for Tennessee outside of Lamonte Turner and Jordan Bowden? And I'm still skeptical because Pons is 6'6". I'm not sure he's 6'6", maybe 6'5", playing down low. How much can he really score? But he looked a lot better, and he continues to look a lot better on the offensive end than he did last season. And if he can just come out and hit the open 3, I think that would go a long way. You talked about it could have been worse at halftime. That's Pons at 3 threes. He's a guy that hadn't been doing that. Zach Kent came in because of foul trouble, hit a 3, and then Josiah James, who's obviously a guard, but his shot hasn't been great so far. He hit a 3, and it was not the guys that you expected necessarily that were making such big
And
contributions.
they needed it. I
And
mean, that was a night
needed it.
where they really needed to have guys outside of Lamonte. I mean, and we know Bowden had the big second half, but like you said, Pons carried them in the first half.
Yeah, and Bowden was sitting on the bench for most of the first half.
Foul trouble.
So I think he scored Tennessee's first 5 points, and he could have had a special game if he didn't get 2 quick fouls. Not just, I mean, he obviously had a great performance either way. You know, this is more of a thought, and I'll see if you have anything to build off of it or any comments to add. I think for right now, Tennessee's biggest question, one of the biggest questions, they can't get in foul trouble. John Fulkerson is a guy, his whole career has, I wish I would have pulled up the per 40 minutes, how many fouls a game he averages. He fouls a lot. And he just can't do that. He cannot do that, and Tennessee can't long-term have Jordan. I mean, it was fine for Tennessee for Tuesday night,
Yeah.
But Lamonte Turner played, I believe, all 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, that's not something you can expect him to do.
You can't do it, every week.
East Pons, he's playing the 4 part of this because of Fulkerson. I think he played 36, 37 minutes. You can't lean on guys when you get into the gauntlet of an SEC schedule that much. So they need those guys they have to stay out of foul trouble, especially Fulkerson. That forced that Ken in there, and he wasn't. I mean, he hit a 3, but you saw his limitations too on the defensive end, and I think he airballed a 3 as well.
Yeah.
So he's just not a spectacular player. I think that's the biggest question right now, especially as they get these newcomers more comfortable playing more minutes. Get Olivier Cambois being able to play 25 minutes opposed to 10, 15 minutes. I think that can change a little bit. But right now, and that's the biggest question I have for this team.
Yeah, there was a point in that game when the foul trouble was happening and guys like Fulkerson and Bowden were out. You looked at the lineup that was out on the floor, guys like Zach Kent and stuff, and you kind of thought like this. I mean, you can get by with it tonight, maybe, and they almost didn't, but like you can get by with it tonight, but you're not going to be able to do that in that SEC schedule, or even they got Washington on Saturday, who's a ranked team now, number 20 in the country. Then you got Wisconsin and Memphis and Cincinnati. So you're not going to be able to do that this long. So I guess, you got to find a way to limit the fouls, get your best players on the floor as much as possible, and don't, wear guys out like Lamonte Turner.
Yeah, absolutely. Pivoting into Washington a little bit, I think the big, that it kind of goes right on what we were just talking about. 2 6'9", top 10 recruit forwards on an Isaiah Stewart and McDaniel for Washington. Big test for East Pons. I asked Barnes about it, and he didn't look at it as much from the Pons hasn't played any post perspective, and just talked about how good of a player Isaiah Stewart is. But that's going to be a big challenge. How well can Pons hold up against talented big men? And he's got a big test Saturday against a guy that could easily be a lottery pick.
And you're away from Thompson Bowling for the first time on a neutral site, which we're not going to be able to watch, so unless you have ESPN Plus.
Yeah, it's an interesting, obviously Tennessee's not ranked right now. I think they're 20s.
They're right outside.
Yeah, right outside.
This would get them in, for sure. If they can get
receiving votes to have 2 top, 30 basketball teams playing and not being on TV. And 2019, what a world we're in. But that's what happens when you schedule a game on a college football Saturday.
That's true, yeah.
I think another, interesting thing, I just wrote a preview on Washington earlier today, looking at them. It's just 2 games in, but similar to Tennessee, doesn't play a lot of guys.
Yeah.
I think they've just only played 9 guys, only 7 playing 10 or more minutes a game, and the 7th guy is just playing straight up 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So they're not gonna, it's gonna be a game where fouls are critical. If either team can get the other in foul trouble, and maybe that plays to Washington's advantage just with the fact that they run 2-3. They got the former Syracuse coach in waiting under Boeheim's now there. They're, I think they went last possession of that game against Baylor. They went man, but 2-3 zone almost all the time. And then it'll be interesting to see how Tennessee attacks that. Rick Barnes and Tennessee have been very good against zones in the past few years. They've really put defenses to shame when they've done that, but they don't have. Not having Grant Williams at the high post changes that a lot, because Grant Williams is about as good as a 15-foot to 18-foot player I've ever watched at the college level. So it'll certainly be interesting. Quade Green, a familiar name for SEC basketball fans, former Kentucky player, has transferred to Washington. He's gotten off to a little bit of a slow start, but He'll have some familiarity with Lamonte Turner and Jordan Bowden. So it'll certainly be an interesting game. First big test for Tennessee, and it'll be interesting to see how they handle such a big game, such a young team.
I think too. I'm excited. I'm excited to see this early season test, and it's not that's nothing uncommon for college basketball. VCU and LSU played a great game last night. We're seeing games that this has gone on for a long time. It's nothing new, but these are tournament type games. What Tennessee beating Murray State the way they did the other night was a tournament style game. And this game will be as well, in neutral site and everything. You're playing a really good Washington team. Very, very exciting time for them to kind of see what they have. And the league, the SEC, is really tough. You're Kentucky. I know they lost to Evansville, but you got to think they're still going to be a very good basketball team, most likely. We'll see what Florida does. They've got a really talented roster. Lost to Florida State the other day. I don't know if they were expecting to go 1-1 at this point, but Arkansas has played well so far.
Arkansas has played well,
with their new head coach. And then we get Tom Crean with Georgia this year. So it's going to be a very tough league, and it's really good to play these style of tournament games because, the SEC I feel like is a little bit different. You could play an SEC team in the NCAA tournament, of course. We see that
South Carolina, Florida. There.
Exactly, and the Elite Eight a couple years ago. So you can see games like that. They're going to be later on. These types of games now, are this type you're going to be playing in March. And they're resume builders. Like Murray State, that was a good, solid win for Tennessee, I think. It was a very good Murray State team, and they've got a chance to do that against Washington. It doesn't make or break their season if they lose. But it'd be interesting to see how they handle it. If they play well, they and lose, they'd have to feel pretty good coming out of that game.
Yeah, it'll certainly be interesting. 5 p.m. Eastern Time Saturday from Toronto, Canada, between Washington and Tennessee in the James Naismith Classic on ESPN Plus. Get your $5 membership. I think it's $5 a month membership. If you're trying to watch, cancel after a month.
And the new Disney Plus just came out.
New Disney
so
Plus,
now you can get the bundle here with ESPN Plus, Hulu, and Disney Plus for $12.99. They'd not pay us to say that. But they can. If they
Not a
want
hashtag
to.
ad.
Yeah.
Not a hashtag ad.
But we'll take it if you'd like to.
Yeah, if they want. Disney, feel free to cut the check. The Checkerboard Chat. We're doing a lot for your brand over here. That'll be it for this first segment of the Checkerboard Chat. We'll be back in segment 2 talking a little Lady Vols hoops with Ryan Cruz. Be back in a minute. Welcome in here to the second segment of Checkerboard Chat. I'm Ryan Schumpert, back for segment 2, but joined this time by Ryan Cruz, one of our Lady Vols basketball beat writers at the Daily Beacon. And the Lady Vols are coming off a nice start to the season, a 3-0 start to the Kelly Harper era, and a big win Monday night at Notre Dame, getting a 74-63 win. Ryan, let's start there. How did Tennessee pull off the upset?
Well, frankly, it was just an out-physical game. Neither side really had a lot of depth, especially Tennessee lost Zay Green even before the game. According to coach, she is out for the season with an ACL injury. So that will be a huge loss, and especially Zay provided a lot of tempo and distribution for the Lady Vols. And then on Notre Dame side, they had 5 new starters. All 5 of their starters last year were drafted to the NBA, and this year their starting lineup consists of 3 new freshmen and 2 transfers coming in. Tennessee dominated the rebounds right here. Offensive rebounds were pretty close, with Tennessee winning 15-11. But on the defensive rebounding, it wasn't even close. Tennessee netted 40 compared to Notre Dame's 17. And it was really weird watching towards the end. There were some times where Notre Dame would shoot, and they would have 4 of their 5 people outside the arc, like not even trying to get the rebound.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's definitely a Notre Dame. You talked about the 5 new starters. It's definitely a significantly smaller team than they've had in the past, and they had last year when they made the national championship game. And Tennessee's not the biggest team in the world, but they really used that to their advantage. Like you said, dominating on the glass, and really played a physical style that I think Kelly Harper wants to implement here. And going into that, just third game, Kelly Harper's got a signature win, and a season that I don't think there were some super high expectations. What does this win mean to her, and what does this win mean to the rest of the season?
It's definitely, confidence is a multiplier, and, especially with a freshman team and a, first-year head coach, it's it's one thing to say that we can do it. It's nothing to know and to have proof that yes, we can do it. We can beat those top teams and have that confidence going into the SEC play.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something you see all the time for rebuilding programs trying to get over that hump, learning how to win, and certainly a good first step here by Kelly Harper. They played 3 games so far: ETSU game, Central Arkansas game. And one didn't look great against some inferior opponents. What would you really pinpoint was the main difference Monday night against Notre Dame? What snapped in for this team?
I think the first 2 games were kind of a wake up call. I think both those 2 teams came out inspired. Wanting to make a name for themselves. Kind of, this is their one shot to play on against a big time program like that. And I think that was a good wake up call for Tennessee. And also, they kind of displayed some of that same wanting to mess up the big program mentality that Central Arkansas and ETSU had with them.
Yeah, it's true. That's definitely an interesting way to look at it. So I guess the big star tonight had to be Renaya Davis. 32 points. Is that or just 30?
33.
33. Okay, even more than I thought. 33 points, 10 rebounds, second double in her first 3 games. She earned SEC Player of the Week honors. Just talk about her performance and just how big of a step she's made so far early this year.
Yeah, it's definitely been big. She had a decent first game, but last game she didn't score. She was held scoreless the entire first half and didn't score until about mid the third quarter, and it ended with about, I think it was 4 or 6 points.
6, I think.
So to get this bounce back, it's really big, especially with the way that again Zay Green's out. She'll need to step up, and I think it'll be huge for Volunteers to have that. And another thing, Jordan Horston, the freshman from Columbus, surprised a lot of people by her play last game, and I think she did a good job in this game, showing that it wasn't a fluke and that she's here to stay, earning 12 points and 7 rebounds, and continue on that streak and keeping it going.
Obviously, I don't think anyone expects Renaya Davis to go out there and score 30 a night, but how much of her success Monday night would you credit to playing a smaller team? Obviously, she's a big player. How much was she able to really feast on, shorter competition, and how much of it do you think is really something she can build on going forward and kind of become a stability score for this team now that Zay Green's out?
I would say the high number probably had something to do with the smaller team, but again, the style she plays, I think it lends itself to strong shooting, great distribution. So I think it's you're not going to score 30 against a similar sized team, but it's going to still put up solid performances and act as a pull on the rest of the team to get to.
We've talked about it a little bit, but you alluded to Zay Green. Tore ACL, was the leading scorer in the first 2 games for Tennessee, or as a whole was the leading scorer. Besides Renaya Davis scoring 30 points, how does Tennessee have to pick up the offense that she left now being out this season?
I think the biggest thing is Jasmine Massengill is going to have to step up in that point guard position. I think it's just going to be big for her and continue to grow in that point guard position, that control the offense. And then just, everyone's got to step up a little bit. Lou Brown's played really well down the center, so that's helped a lot. I think it's just everyone kind of picking up, doing their own little parts to.
Already a thin team before Green goes down. What does that mean, I guess, for the Lady Vols' depth? How many girls do they have playing on a single night at this point, you think?
It's probably going to shorten the roster a little bit. Of course, anytime an injury. But they seem to have, of the 12, I guess now 11 people, they've got great depth. Even, someone like Jessica Rene, 5'8", I think she scored 3 points so far this season, but has had high plus-minus rates and has been very productive and overall generating to the team. And I think that's just going to – I think they benefit from that depth and, even the lower, less scoring ends, still creating the production for the team.
Yeah, I think that's kind of an interesting comparison between the men's team and the women's team right now. I think the women's team may have a few – neither of them have, excellent scholarship numbers of people that are healthy and playing right now. But I think, part of that's because the men's team's a little younger, but the Lady Vols have more of their lower-end players that aren't scoring much are still playing at a little higher level right now than that of the men's team. But we'll have more on that in the first segment. You've probably already listened to it. But Ryan, thank you for joining us. A big win, 74-63 for the Lady Vols up in South Bend, Indiana, Monday night. We'll have complete coverage of the Lady Vols going on the rest of this week, and we will have more going forward as they continue a very tough out-of-conference slate. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Checkerboard Chat. Joined by Noah Taylor and Ryan Cruz, I'm Ryan Schumpert. Have a great rest of your day.